Lemisérable, Chapter 25. To the barricade. Marius had entered Monsieur Gillenormand's house with little hope. He exited it in deep despair. He began to walk the streets of Paris, not knowing what else to do. At 2 o'clock in the morning, he returned to Courfeyrac's apartment. Marius threw himself on his mattress, fully dressed. He was stunned before he fell asleep. When Marius woke up, Courfeyrac was there. So were two other friends, Anchoras and Corsair. The three of them were getting ready to go out. "Are you coming with us?" asked Courfeyrac. Marius shook his head. Some time after they left, he put Javert's pistol into his pocket. After a while, he went out and roamed the streets again. Darkness was flooding his mind. At 9 o'clock, he arrived at the house on the Rue de Maine. It had been 48 hours since he had last seen Cosette. Now he was going to see her again, and all of her thoughts faded away. He pushed aside the bar and the gate and entered the garden. Cosette was not in the spot where she usually waited for him. "She must be waiting for me on the bench," she said to himself. But she was not there. He looked up at the house. All the shutters were closed. He walked around the garden and returned to the house. Mad with love, he pounded on the door. He did not care for father answered the door. "Cosette! Cosette!" cried Mary's loud voice. There was no response. Nobody was in the garden, nobody in the house. Marius fixed his eyes on that house as dark and silent. Feeling hopeless, he sat on the steps. "Since Cosette has gone," he said to himself, "there's nothing for me to do but die." Suddenly he heard a voice coming from the street beyond the garden gate. "Monsieur Marius!" He arose. "Yes?" "Monsieur Marius, your friends are expecting you at the barricade on the Rue de Chanvrerie." The voice sounded Japanese. Marius stretched the gate and looked out. He saw someone who looked like a young man rapidly disappearing down the street. What was this barricade? While Marius was in despair, Courfeyrac and the others joined what would later be called the Paris Uprising of 1832. A large group of students and workers decided to rebel against the monarchy, and they took their fight into the streets of Paris. Outside the current tavern, 50 men were built a carriage and embarked the Rue de Chanvrerie. Iron bars were ripped to grace in front of the tavern. 20 yards of pavement were torn off. Piles of stones and barrels were also added. An omnibus was even tipped over and incorporated into the barricade. Despite all this preparation, the barricade did not exceed 6 or 7 feet in height. Similar barricades were going up throughout Paris. When the barricade was completed, a table was drawn from the tavern, and Courfeyrac distributed ammunition. It was not much ammunition. Each man received only 30 cartridges. A powder case sat nearby. The 15 men in the Chanvrerie barricade loaded their guns and waited as darkness fell over Paris. Nothing happened. The government forces were taking their time. Among the men in the barricade was the street Frenchman Gavroche, who was also Happening's brother. While the rebels waited for the attack, Gavroche looked around. Suddenly he recognized someone, a new recruit to Rari. Gavroche ran to Andras, one of the leaders in the barricade. "See that fellow over there?" Gavroche indicated the tall man. "I think he's a spy. He's really a policeman. 2 weeks ago he tried to arrest me." Andras approached the man. "What are you doing here? What's your name?" "I'm an officer of the government, and my name is Javert." Andras gave the signal informant pounced on Javert. They threw him to the ground and searched him. They found a piece of paper and instructed him to look for the rebels' hideouts. "You are a spy, and you'll be shot 10 minutes before the barricade seized," said Andras. "Why don't you shoot me now?" asked Javert. "We don't want to waste the ammunition." By this time, Marius was heading for the barricade. He knew it would be a dangerous place, but he no longer cared. It was clear that Cosette no longer loved him. She had left without sending him a single word. There was no excuse for this because she knew in no dress he could not abandon his friends who clearly needed him. They were perhaps a handful of men against the entire army that was defending the monarchy. 43 rebels crouched behind the barricade. The other 7 were stationed in the 2 upper stories of the current tavern. Suddenly, there was the sound of marching footsteps. A loud explosion burst over the barricade. The attack had begun. 2 National Guards climbed the barricade. One knocked Courfeyrac to the ground. The other threatened Gavroche with his bayonet. 2 shots rang out, and the guards fell over. Marius had just entered the barricade and fired Javert's pistol. More soldiers entered the barricade, but Marius was out of ammunition. As he frantically looked around, a guard aimed at it. Suddenly, a young working man in velvet trousers reached out in front of Marius. When the gun fired, it was the working man who fell to the ground. Marius looked around again and spotted the cake of gunpowder. "There, or blow up the barricade," he shouted. Everyone turned to look at him as he picked up a lit torch. "If you blow up the barricade, you'll blow up yourself too," said a soldier. "That's right." Marius waved the torch near the cake. The soldiers fled over the top of the barricade as fast as they could. "Who's in charge here?" Marius said after the rebel. "You are," said Enjolras, patting him on the back. Ottoman did too. Marius was a hero. "Monsieur Marius," cried a voice. Marius recognized Apolline's voice, but he didn't see her anywhere. "How you feel?" said Apolline. Marius bent over. The torchlight revealed the face of the young man in the velvet trousers. "Apolline, what are you doing here?" "I'm dying." "I'll carry you to the tavern." "No." She struggled to talk. "It's too late. I used my hands to stop the blood, and for you." "No one dies from my own hand," protested Marius. "The blood and my chest," she said weakly. "I didn't want you to go to the guard, and yet I showed you where she lived. But it's all right now. Nobody will get alive from this barricade. Not even my brother. I sent you here so we could die together, because I've always been in love with you." Marius gazed at her with compassion. "I have a letter for you." Apolline held out her hand. "I was supposed to deliver yesterday, but I didn't want it to reach you. Now that I know I'll be reunited after death, I don't want you to be angry with me." Apolline died, and Marius took the letter from her hand.